Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to participate in droidCon this year. I'm going to be talking about the life of a malware reverse engineer, a mobile software reverse engineer at Google. And the example is going to be reverse engineer malware applications. This is Android applications from the Play Store, from other sources. We do this on a regular basis, so I'm representing our team. Let me go to presentation mode here. I'm going to stay here behind the podium. Hopefully you will be able to see. If you have any questions, we can probably take the questions quickly. It's only a 20-minute presentation. Hopefully you will enjoy it. It's definitely work that I enjoy doing on a daily basis. Thank you, Olivier, for some of the materials here. I'm sharing some of those slides that he's used in the past. So this is a summary of the developer workflow. You can go from step 1 to step 5, trying to publish an application. What do you first? You set up your environment. You will write some code. At some point, you build, run it, make sure that everything works according to your specifications and your desires. Once you are ready, at some point, you publish the application. You make it available on the Play Store for Google. You make it available on other application stores, on your website. If it is a game, we know of many websites that distribute their own games. So that's the general workflow. Write code, generate an APK, and publish. An APK is, of course, a file that contains the application for Android. But in the case of a reverse engineering workflow, you go the other way around. Given number 5, given the presence of an APK, that is the input to what you're going to be analyzing, how do you derive code? How do you derive readable code that can be assembly or can be high-level representation that you can use to detect malware, malicious behaviors? Right? So that is the exercise, and that is what is cool about this. From a software development standpoint, you can use packers and obfuscation to protect your intellectual property or to hide the behaviors that you are trying to hide from us. And then we need to do the exercise of going back. Given the application, given the executable, how can I determine what is the executable going to be doing at a certain point in time? Can I do static analysis? Can I derive assembly? Can I derive Smalley? Can I derive Java? Or in the case of SO files and native libraries, can I derive C, C++ code? In a way that I can derive meaningful, correct conclusions. The exercise here is necessary because in the end, we want to protect users. In order to protect users, we want to have access to as much information about the application as possible. We can derive that application from the APK itself or from executing it in an emulator on the actual device. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Some of the challenges that we face when we try to precisely identify malicious behaviors in applications. And this is a very exciting game. As an introduction, who's familiar with Google Play Protect? Who's heard about Google Play Protect? Okay, so Google Play Protect is the preloaded on Android certified devices malware scanner, if you will. There's a big platform behind it that allows your device to consume safe applications from the Play Store and for us to detect malicious applications once they are installed on your phone. It may be they may have been sideloaded onto your phone, or they may be downloaded directly from the Play Store. In the end, we want to give you a warning. We want to help protect your device against abuse. And there's some malware categories that are in the scope that I will introduce, and that will drive 90% of what we do on a daily basis within the malware research team at Google. This is the interface. It will tell you, if you go to settings, security, you will see this interface. It will tell you your applications are clean. We don't find any problem. When you're downloading, let's say, an application from a third-party market, you may receive a warning that it may say, hey, this is a phishing application. We think there's a threat. We recommend you not to proceed, but you have the option to proceed. If the application comes from the Play Store, we are absolutely certain that it's malware. We'll make sure that we remove it from your device to make sure that you are not exposed to those threats. One of the settings within Google Play Protect is the ability to scan your application. The applications will be periodically scanned on your device, and you will receive notifications. Hey, everything is working okay, or not. On the left-hand side, you see an example of a warning that you are receiving. The application can damage your device, but you have the option open anyway or uninstall, which is great. That's how we, in the end, we try to protect you. Or we may say the application is up removed by Play Protect. When the threat is so high, at the top of our severity scores is ransomware. Right? If there's a piece of ransomware on your device, we absolutely going to remove it from the Play Store, and we're going to try to remove it from your device if it's not a system application. If there's a system application, we may try to disable it, right? You have the opportunity, of course, to enable it back as necessary. But where is this knowledge coming from? How do we know that the application is malicious or not? There's some human analysis. There's some pattern matching. There's machine learning. There's rules that we write to identify in a scalable way applications that are malicious. So that platform is fed with human knowledge. Reverse engineers, security engineers working on a daily basis on this type of analysis. Let's say that today we discover a new phishing campaign. We've never seen that behavior in the past. It may be using accessibility API. Who's familiar with the accessibility API? Yeah, the accessibility API is very powerful, right? And it can be used for valid purposes, but it can also be abused. Let's say that we find something today. Oh, well, how many applications may be implementing abuse in this way? So we write a pattern, we run a query, and we find those applications that may be malicious. So that's how we feed the platform. Human knowledge needs to be permeated, needs to impact our detection engine in such a way that we protect your devices on a regular basis. These are some of the applications, the potentially harmful application categories in the scope. You see spyware, phishing, billing fraud. These are applications that may be enrolling you in a paid SMS service without your knowledge. They may be intercepting the confirmation SMS messages from the carrier, but they may be dropping it. They intercept it and then drop it, so you cannot see it. In the end, you may be able to see it. Then if you review your bill at the end of the month, you may be able to catch this, 20 cents, US cents that were charged to you. If you multiply that by, 50 million accounts affected, then it's a lot of money that fraudsters can be making. So these are the categories that we work on a regular basis. So what is the exercise of a malware engineer or reverse engineer? You need to have the ability to decompose an APK. You need to have the ability to use debuggers, decompilers, disassemblers in order to find these behaviors. And we continuously add behaviors. We've been working more on advertising fraud these days, right? So in our next security report next year will include some of that information. It's a large abuse space. So we keep expanding. What can be affecting the user? What can be affecting the advertising networks, right? And the reputation of that ecosystem that we've built, and that is very productive. So our reverse engineering teams focus on the analysis of those behaviors by reverse engineer some of the applications. This is the summary of the pipeline that we use for application analysis. We, of course, need to fetch the application first, and we will analyze it. At some point, we make a decision. Is this sufficiently malicious or not? Are we certain or not? Are we 99% confident or are we 50% confident? Of course, we need to be very careful. We don't want to flag applications that we are not confident are malicious. So we have a rate of false positives that we need to control on a regular basis. And finally is the decision. As a reverse engineer, if the machine learning engine, if the rules were not able to classify these applications automatically, then the human expert is asked, do you find evidence of a spyware here? Yes or no? Well, it's obfuscated. Okay, it may take me a few more hours. Okay, it is packed and obfuscated and it's fetching code dynamically. Okay, it may take me one more week, right? But in the end, we need to have that certainty that the application is behaving maliciously before we flag it. So we let it go and we say it is approved and it can be published in the Play Store, or we are not going to be issuing any warnings on the device because we think that is benign, versus is malicious. Let's learn from it. Let's classify it. Let's characterize it. Let's write rules. Let's retrain our machine learning models to be able to classify these applications at a scale that is suitable for the size of the ecosystem. The first step, as I mentioned, is fetching the application. A reverse engineer doesn't really play a big role in this space. The only point that I want to mention is that in addition to applications coming from the Play Store, as reverse engineers of malware at Google, we also receive applications that come pre-built with a device. If an OEM, you buy your brand new phone, it already comes with system applications. So we have for Android certified phones a process that is called the build test suite. That is a set of security tests and checks that make sure that we detect malicious applications before the device reaches the user. That's another source of applications. And the third source of applications is third-party stores. How do we get third-party store applications? Do we scan the application stores directly? No. The Google Play Protect module on your device has the ability to send samples to us. Let's say that we see a sample, an application that we've never seen before. If you have a control on your settings to send us that sample in a probabilistic manner. So we may be able to receive at some point applications that we've never seen in the past that are not present in the Play Store, and they don't come preloaded. They may be a test app. Let's say that you uploaded your test app on the device, and now it's present on 10 devices. At some point, if your device is enrolled in this feature, we may be able to receive that sample, scan it, and protect users in case there's malicious content or intent. So reverse engineering is really part of the other three sections. When we analyze the application, we do static analysis. We decompose the APK. We need to see what is if we need to do code flow analysis. So the security engineer can be part of that flow because we're trying to use their knowledge. How is spyware today, trying to exfiltrate JPEG messages, SMS messages, list of contacts, your history, your browsing history. So we need that knowledge from reverse engineer, and they participate in this part of analysis. This is software engineering. And number two, in terms of retraining our machine learning algorithms or developing rules, that's a fundamental responsibility of our reverse engineers. So these reverse engineers, most of them are security engineers. Some of them are software engineers. But their responsibility is, let's say that we recently detected a spyware campaign. And we want to detect it on a regular basis. We want to detect slight modifications of those applications. How do we do that? We have different software engineering tools. The reverse engineer is responsible for testing those, right? If we have a new clustering algorithm that is detecting a spyware campaign, the reverse engineer is going to be able to tell us whether or not the clustering algorithm is working or not. The software engineering team may be able to develop the algorithm, produce some of the results, but the analysis is really the responsibility of the security engineer, the reverse engineer. And of course, the classification of escalations. If we are not able to automate 10% of the detection of malware, that 10% goes to human analysis. And we are expanding our capacity for doing that type of analysis. That is very exciting, is very dynamic. Some of these campaigns are very big. Of course, they go across country boundaries. It is very exciting work, especially in the Android space, because there's a lot of movement. Okay, so in terms of reversing Android applications, many of you are software developers and understand what is inside an APK. In the case of a reverse engineer, what we want to do is we want to derive as much information about the APK as possible. How do we do that? We may use the compilers. We may use our own tools at Google. We tend to develop our own tools just in general. But we want to utilize all the resources available within the APK to determine whether or not there's a developer that we may see before involved in fraud or malware. There may be a routing or an exploit that is part of the APK. Is rare when we see exploits being exercised through applications that are trying to exploit unpatched vulnerabilities on the operating system. But it does happen, especially in the routing category. So in case of the manifest, we want to know what permissions are being declared, what are the entry points, right? And this is a very good source of information, the manifest itself. Of course, the code will trump most of the testing unless it's obfuscated or packed. So any executable code that is present, we want to disassemble it. We want to decompile it to produce Smalley or Java in such a way that we can search for strings, we can understand what the logic is trying to attempt. If there's cloaking, if it is checking for the location of my device, is checking whether or not the device is connected to a debugger, right? We want to analyze the executable as much as possible. And I talked about some of the challenges that we face. And certainly native libraries. Who's worked with native libraries before? Right? An opportunity to run a code compiled to that specific SoC to that CPU core without depending on the Java runtime, right? On the virtual machine. Very powerful. However, is being used also for obfuscating code or hide malicious behavior. And I'll talk about it as well. So one of the DEX files that may be present in the APK may include malicious behavior. So what is what I want to do? I want to use a tool to expose readable code. I may not be able to read bytecode directly, but I can read assembly code. In this case, in the case of Android, who's worked with Smalley before? right? So Smiley is much more readable than bytecode for humans. So that's a very, very helpful representation of bytecode that allows me to run searches to draw conclusions regarding, okay, what are the classes that are being derived. I'll show you in a minute. But from the APK, you produce a Smiley representation of the bytecode for the ART or the Dalvik virtual machines. This is an example of Smiley. You can absolutely read it as a human. You are able to see class names, strings, right? Hard-coded strings. That's very powerful. You can then start. Let's say that the HTTPS string that you see there is an indicator of compromise, and it tells me, hey, we know that this website is involved in SMS fraud or bill fraud. Then I can search all the I can produce all the Smiley representation of the DEX files, which we do on a regular basis for all applications, and then I'm able to find all the applications that make reference to that. Now with dynamic analysis, then I can run the application and confirm that in fact there's some traffic going to that device. Right? You see the connection, but it's very, very helpful. From the DEX file, you produce a Smiley, and with Smiley, in many cases, you are able to validate your hypothesis in terms of malicious behavior, or who may be involved, or what is the website that may be targeted. Now, Smiley may not be very good in terms of analyzing code flow. So you want to produce a higher level representation. It may be Java, in the case of SO images and native code, it may be C or C++. So that's what you do. You can use AndroGuard, you can use JEB, you can use your favorite decompiler to produce Java. It's a much cleaner way to, a simpler way to analyze. What is the challenge here? That our decompilers may not be perfect, and the code that you may be producing may be incorrect. Right? So we need to be very careful with the tools that we select, and certainly the tools that we build, to make sure that that human representation is sufficiently strong in order to make meaningful conclusions. When, as a reverse engineer, you make the decision to flag an application as malicious, you may be impacting the revenue big time of companies, right? And that happens very frequently. If it is a malicious company, well, I think that's the cost, right? But if it's a false positive, if we correctly flagged it, because maybe the decompiler produced incorrect, imprecise code, then we're in trouble. So we try to correct that on a regular basis. It happens, we are humans, but we try to react and correct those issues as soon as possible. There are several tools that we can use. Some of them are for pay. JEB is, who's used JEB before? But I recommend you to take a look. It's a very good tool for the compilers for Java Android applications in particular. Very powerful. Or you can use AndroGuard, JDEX, and Bytecode Reviewer that are free tools. We took Smiley code and then we produced Java code. This is much easier to analyze as a code reviewer, if that's what you want to do. If you do a static analysis and you want to figure out what the application is doing. This example that I was reading for droidCon is trying to do spyware and is trying to exfiltrate SMS messages. But of course, you produce code. Is this the code that the developer used to write the application? This is very similar. It's very, very similar. And in the majority of cases, I would say 98% of the times, this is sufficiently correct to make a conclusion in terms of malware behavior. It's of course much more useful than using Smiley and certainly bytecode. But what is the problem? If you are on the other side of the game and you are the malware developer, you want to use obfuscation, packing. You want to make sure that you make our life more difficult as reverse engineers. So in the case of a string, the droidCon 2019, you may be able to do encoding. In this case, base64 encoding. So when I search for, hey, I know that string is associated to this spyware family, then I cannot find it. So what do I need to do as a reverse engineer? I need to use many tools that are online or my own tools to base64 decode that string. Same thing, you can compose a byte array for another string, and you're not going to be able to find the string, in this case, droidCon, because it's not present there. So you need to first identify what strings are being encoded, how, and then write Python or your favorite scripting language to determine if you can come up with the origin of the string, and then you can find it. It's very common to see XORs and encryption algorithms. Encryption in this case is used for obfuscation. Why? Because the key needs to be there. The key may be dropped from a service, but it's too complicated. So malware developers, they will just include the key there. So you just look at the application, you look for AES, RC4, MD5, not even, RSA, ECC, any encryption algorithm, symmetric or asymmetric, and you look for the key that is going to be very close to where the call to the encryption routines or decryption routines are. Right? So it's just a game of, okay, where is the key? You look at the key, and then once you start, you can start de-obfuscating. It's very commonly done. The other way to obfuscate code is a chance that reverse engineers on a daily basis is renaming. Renaming of classes, renaming of parameters, renaming of the packages names themselves. Why? Because then I need to then figure out, okay, what is this class doing? What type of parameters is being are being passed, are received, what type of strings are being composed. And then through the search and replace mechanism of the compiler, you may be able to start adding the names back. Right? It is a step that slows us down, but it can be undone. You need to do the exercise of understanding, in this case, what the method is doing, and little by little add the names back, the variables back, in such a way that that you start building the truth of what the application is doing. Once you do that renaming, in our case of our tools, we may be able to share knowledge, right? So let's say that you rename a lot of methods, so I should be able to do it and then benefit from what you are doing as my peer reverse engineer. We talked about the native library, the Java native library in Android. In this case, it's being used for obfuscation. So you have a sample APK, and you look at the lib folder, and it has an SO file. And you wonder, okay, what is the SO file doing? Is it optimizing graphics? Is it being used precisely to utilize some of the hardware on the SoC or the core? Well, let's see what it does, right? In the end, the SO file may be declaring, you see a JNI native method that is being declared there. It can be called from Java, right? That is the power of the JNI. You can call that C code, C compiled code for that SoC from Java. This complicates things from a detection point of view, because if I'm trying to search on Smalley or Java strings, well, I'm not going to find this, right? I need to do the same exercise for SO files. I need to produce C or C++ code from those SO files and then do my analysis, right? Just focusing only on the DEX files is not going to be sufficient in these cases. And this is a method that is more and more used to hide behavior, right? It's an additional step that as a reverse engineer you need to go through. This is an interesting case because it shows the complexity of working in the reverse engineering space. You see this SO file, right, that we saw is native code. So the APK is going to be loading that library. But what is the library doing first? It's trying to decrypt first. So if you look at the SO file and you try to decompile it to C, you'll see that there's a lot of encryption. The SO file itself is doing decryption. So it's the exercise of finding where is the key and how we are doing the string obfuscation or decryption in such a way that then we can understand what the logic behind the executable is, and you derive C and C++ code. In the case of asset files that may be images, audio files, and other type of files, in this case, the surprise is that it is not a regular asset file. It is another APK, right? It's another APK that is named cc.com.swift.tailor.data that includes a stage 1 APK that itself, when executed and loaded, may fetch another DEX file that includes an exploit for routing. So that's what, in this case, is a real example, what the developers did. They tried to hide the code in the SO file with the native library to delay the finding. That's how I will describe it. At some point, we're going to find it. We may not find it within one second. It may take us several minutes or hours to find this. But in the end, you see how different aspects of the development of the application can be abused to hide code and make things more complicated from the analysis point of view. I have a couple more slides and we'll be done here. In terms of dynamic analysis, it's another part of the life of a reverse engineer. You can analyze code directly in APKs, but as I mentioned, it may be very costly to try to deobfuscate, unpack, and go through those hurdles. You can then just try to run the application. Right? You run the application on the device, run the application on the emulator. What is the challenge? In the case of dynamic analysis, there may be cloaking. There may be checks that prevent our analysis. For instance, if you run it in a sandbox, the application may be looking for variables that are not changing. For instance, if it may be looking at the battery level of the phone, right? If the battery remains at, let's say, 86%, and it never moves from 86%, guess what? It may be an emulator environment. If there is an IP address that never changes, right? It is expected to be a dynamic address, never changes. Maybe the application knows that it's being emulated. So those are the challenges with dynamic analysis. Both static analysis and dynamic analysis, they have the pros and cons. And depending on the case, it may be faster to execute the application and then try to deal with the cloaking issues than having to reverse engineer or unpack an application that may be difficult to analyze from a static point of view, the static analysis point of view. Applications may then try to detect whether a debugger is connected. They may try to look at processes that are executing on the same environment and then characterize the environment. Let's say that you fingerprint the environment and you know as an application where your environment is, and you know that it's an emulator because it never changes. It's the same applications over and over again. The user is not opening any or closing many more applications, which is rare. So there are many different tactics that you can use as a malware developer to prevent anti-dynamic analysis. The other one, in terms of emulation, is you can check the sensors. Is the gyroscope or the GPS coordinates moving at all, right? And if not, it's like that you may be emulated, so then you don't exhibit the malicious behavior. You don't steal the credit card. You don't exfiltrate the user's data, right? So you are careful. It's very, we've presented in different conferences. In some cases, it's very clear. We take screenshots of what happens when the device is operating, let's say, within the US or outside of the US. Right? And the malicious behavior may be triggered depending on some of these conditions. In the end, this complicates the analysis for a reverse engineer. So you need to really be determined and follow with your analysis until you reach your conclusion. You either say, this is malicious, this is not malicious, or I don't know. If it took you a month, then it's likely that you will have to move on to work on something else, another threat. That is what I had for you today. Is just some of the challenges as a reverse engineer you face. Technical analysis, analytical skills, investigative skills are really key. In addition to security skills, but I mean applied cryptography and know how certificates are being provisioned, the type of vulnerabilities that you can find in encryption algorithms, etc. In many cases, these investigations take several months or several weeks. These are maybe investigations involving many parties, many companies that are affected, and millions of users. So that's part of the excitement of working in this area, at least for Google. We get to work on applications that have high impact, and we help protect our users in a large number. And finally, this is an area that is very exciting. People that work with us in reverse engineering at Google, they are very passionate. I work in computer security all my career. And in particular, malware analysis, reverse engineers, those are the most passionate individuals that I've met during my career. It's a very exciting area because there's a lot of things to resolve and to investigate. So it keeps things very interesting. We are hiring, so if you're interested in developing your skills, I think it's a very, very valuable skill in computer security. Not only applied to malware analysis, but also in binary analysis for firmware of IoT devices and servers, etc. So it's time well spent. Thank you for your time.